freaking happened. Blake Griffin actually got traded. What is going on, y'all? FaizSportsTalk back at it with another video. Of course, here to talk some NBA, here to break down the Blake Griffin trade that I am still in shock over. Okay, and when this trade happened today, my phone was blowing up. If you guys are new to the channel, welcome. Make sure you subscribe, turn on post notifications, do all of that stuff. Follow me on my social media too. But if you're new to the channel, you should know Blake Griffin is my favorite player. Don't ask me why. I have my reasons. Maybe I'll explain in a Q&A later and whatnot. But for the purposes of this video, just know he is my favorite player. And he got traded today. So, of course, you know, all my friends were hitting me up. Twitter was blowing up for me. Instagram and whatnot. And Snapchat. And everybody's like, are you a Pistons fan now? What's your reaction? And I was like, just wait for my video. And I'm here to bring you guys my reaction to this trade. Believe me, I'm going to get into everything. So you guys are going to want to stick around because I'm going to get to the analysis of this trade overall from the Pistons side, from the Clippers side, what it means, and everything else in between. But before I get started on that, can I just say for one quick second, F loyalty, especially in sports, but really in general, because honestly, when you are in a business and the NBA is a business at the end of the day, these teams really do not give a you-know-what if they need to do what's best for the team, okay? Except if you're Kevin Durant, okay? Here's my thing with that. Kevin Durant did go to Golden State. I never had an issue with Kevin Durant leaving the OKC Thunder for any team, really, any team. The only reason I had an issue, and I still have an issue, with Kevin Durant was because he went to the team that beat him, and that's it. If he went to the Celtics, if he went to the Wizards, it would have been fine. Folks, players have changed teams multiple times before. No one hates Shaq for leaving Orlando for the Lakers. I mean, maybe some Orlando Magic fans, but the same fans on OKC hate KD, and they have a right to. But my point being is KD's the exception there, so don't take him as the norm. But in general, man, you talk about the Clippers and Blake Griffin, who they pursued this past summer when he was a free agent, and they were just completely showering him with gifts. They were pretending like they were going to hang his jersey and he's going to be a Clipper for life. And 6 months later, kick him to the curb. Hey, you're traded to Detroit. So, yeah, and if I'm Blake Griffin, man, that next contract, sorry, no trade clause. If I'm any superstar entering free agency, no trade clause. Put that in there right now. I don't care what it is, okay? So for that reason, I'm just saying, and talk about the lack of trust in the organization. I mean, are you kidding me? I know Jerry West has come on as sort of a consultant. I don't know who was behind this move, but you have to know that, you have to think Doc was probably involved some way. But the point being here is you sign a guy in free agency, and whether or not this trade will benefit the Clippers, only time can tell, and I will give, of course, my analysis on that. Whether or not this trade benefits the Clippers, the point here is you sign a guy that you're going to trade 6 months later, okay? So that shows that you have no stability in your organization. That shows that players who sign with you don't trust you to make the right moves. And that's how you lose, and that's how you become a losing organization, okay? And that is what the Clippers were before Blake Griffin got there, and that's what they're going to turn into now that Blake Griffin has left, okay? So let's get into the trade analysis of this trade. So I'm just going to start with the trade overall. There was a lot of pieces involved, a lot of late news coming out. That's why I like to wait before these trades fully come in to make my sort of reaction video. I always say this, I don't want to be first, I want to be right. Okay, so it doesn't matter if I'm first as long as I'm right and I get all the facts right and you guys get the right information, because that's what you guys are on this channel for, analysis and maybe entertainment, but you know what it is. So let's get to the trade. The official trade is Blake Griffin, Willie Reed, and Bryce Johnson to the Detroit Pistons in exchange for Avery Bradley, Tobias Harris, Boban Marjanovic, and a 2018 first-round pick and a 2019 second-round pick, okay? So initially, those picks weren't announced in the trade. Boban wasn't announced in the trade, so now it all came together. And now the trade does not seem as egregious to me, okay? Now, pause for a second. You guys are probably thinking, okay, Faiz, you probably hate this trade for the Clippers. Not necessarily. I don't hate it for the reasons that you might think. I do hate it in a certain sense, but not for the reasons you guys think. So let's talk about this trade from the Clippers' perspective, okay? Clippers have had a lot of injuries this season. Austin Rivers, Milos Teodosic has been out, Danilo Gallinari's been out, and this team was actually looking decent. Can't forget Patrick Beverley as well. This team was actually looking decent until all those injuries happened. And this is the saddest part sometimes that I feel like with sports is, and this happens to coaches, this happens to executives, players, and whatnot. When injuries happen, somebody has to take the fall. Okay? If the Clippers had Patrick Beverley, Danilo Gallinari, Austin Rivers, Milo Teodosic, if their entire team was healthy for this entire season, they would be a playoff team. They would, folks. They were playing like a playoff team, and with the way Lou Williams has been playing, they would be in a playoff spot for sure. But of course, that didn't happen, and they're not in the playoffs, and they won't make the playoffs. So what those injuries did was provide sort of desperation, okay? And really, for me, I hate this trade because of what I mentioned before. This is a black mark on your organization, okay? You cannot do this to a player you just signed. You can't do that. If you didn't want Blake Griffin, you shouldn't have signed him to that extension. You shouldn't have signed him to that deal. Just let him sign with another team. Blake Griffin was under the impression that you wanted him to be the face of the franchise, and whether that was to rebuild around Blake, at least it was something centered around Blake, okay? So that is the issue here for me, because this is such a bad look for the Clippers to be able to do this and then go and expect them to, be okay and sign future free agents. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to build up that trust and that loyalty. Now, of course, you can say, Faiz, just throw money at these players, they'll come. Yeah, they will. But there's a salary cap for a reason. And there's other teams, the salary cap went up, there's other teams that can offer money as well. So it's not like the Clippers would be the only team that would have salary cap space, okay? The next thing I want to talk about in regards to the trade for the Clippers is their obviously motive is to see their roster as not a championship roster right now. And fair enough, even with Blake Griffin, they were not a championship team. So what are they trying to do now? They're not trying to tank. They are trying to rebuild on the fly. Basically a retool, if you will. Okay, they're trying to take players like an Avery Bradley, like a Tobias Harris, and these are nice players, folks. Honestly, I don't hate the players that they acquired in this trade. Tobias Harris, he is a very underrated small forward, power forward, averaging 18 points per game this year. He has been solid for Detroit, and he's still relatively young. I believe he's, 25 years old? Still relatively young, and his contract, he's in the second to last year of his 4-year, $64 million contract. So after this season, you have one more season, and then his contract is off the books. So that adds a little bit of flexibility. Then you take Avery Bradley. He's been injured a little bit this year, but again, averaging around 15 points per game, one of the best defensive guards in the league. And he's still only, 26 years old, okay? And he's on an expiring contract. So they acquired some relatively young players on very good deals, okay? Then we talk about Boban Marjanovic. He's nice. He's okay. He's got some potential. Dude's like 7'8", if you will. He looks like an ogre. Boban is incredible in his stature, and he's obviously going to provide some big man depth for the Clippers. But am I expecting the world out of him? No, of course not. But he is a nice piece. Then we take a look at the first round and second round pick. Now, this is important. People see these first round picks and they think, oh, they got a pick for it. But no, there are protections on these picks. I believe the protections on these picks are 1 through 4 for the Clippers. So if these picks happen to be the first through the fourth pick, the Clippers will not be getting the first round pick for 2018. And the protections will keep moving up until I believe 2021 is when the protection comes off. I have to double check on that, but that is when I think it will. So basically, Clippers aren't getting a top 5 pick for this, okay? They're getting somewhere between, and if the Pistons turn out to, make a playoff run with Blake Griffin, this pick is obviously going to get worse and worse. So they probably will get this pick in 2018, because I don't think the Pistons are going to be bad now with Blake Griffin, okay? Same thing with the 2019 second round pick. I don't know if this one has too many protections on that. But with that being said, so they didn't get that, but their own draft pick. They have their own draft pick, and if the Clippers end up trading Lou Williams and DeAndre Jordan, which also could happen, stay tuned for that. That is what will happen with these picks. So now we take a look at this trade from the Detroit side of things, okay? So let's take a look at it from Detroit point of view. And my thing here is this has Stan Van Gundy written all over it. Stan Van Gundy wants to win now. He wants to make a move now. And news broke that Avery Bradley was available for trade. And after that news broke, I kind of was thinking, my antenna went off. Why are the Pistons looking to trade Avery Bradley? They just traded for him. They traded. And so the Pistons just, I feel like, don't know what they're doing. And again, Stan Van Gundy is at the head of this because Stan Van Gundy is that type of coach where he gets really irritated. I feel like if he doesn't win now, he's not trying to be there to build. And here's the thing with Detroit. Now you've got two prolific big men in Andre Drummond and Blake Griffin. That's great. I mean, you look at the Pelicans with Boogie and AD. I know Boogie's out for the year now, but they were catching stride. But it took them a while. It took a half a season last year, and it took the better part of this year for them to finally gel. And you're talking about with Drummond, who provides zero floor spacing, and Blake Griffin, who does provide floor spacing, but they have less skill set than AD and Boogie Cousins combined. So it's going to be a transition for sure for these two big men. I don't know how good of a fit they are. My guess would be not that great. I don't think it'll be awful, but the fit and the floor spacing in today's pace and space NBA, I don't know about all that, folks. Okay, and then you take a look at the other starters. I mean, who do you have at small forward? Reggie Bullock, Stanley Johnson. Then you got Luke Kennard, the kid you drafted this year. Ish Smith starting at point guard. I know Reggie Jackson's out, but Reggie Jackson hasn't been that great this season. So I love Blake Griffin. But does he make the Pistons a playoff team? Yeah, they'll probably sneak in at the 7th, 8th. They were actually doing relatively well, and they've been on a losing streak, which probably has a part to do in this trade. But like I mentioned, do I really think they are going to be contenders with Blake Griffin? No, I do not think that, unless they make some other moves, which we don't know about yet, but could be possible. So, like I said, let's see what happens. But this trade from both sides discussed to you guys and analyzed for you guys. So now, of course, begs the question, who won this trade? And you're probably thinking, Faiz, you're probably going to say that the Pistons won this trade, and you are absolutely wrong. I will not say that, okay? Surprise, surprise. And here's the thing. I always mention this in my videos, folks. I am a fan of the game, but I always try to be objective, thinking with my head, not my heart here. And here's my reason, okay? The reason I say the Clippers won this trade in only one instance of this entire trade, okay? They lost long-term wise, and I explained the reason for that. But just the premises of this trade, the only reason they won is because they traded Blake Griffin to a team in which Detroit made this deal seem even worse than it could be, okay? You took on Blake Griffin's contract, which is about 5 years and $171 million. He's got a $39 million player option when he's 32. Okay, so the last year of his deal is a $39 million player option. Now, question, trivia time. Do you think Blake Griffin's going to pick up that $39 million player option at age 32? I think so. I think he will. And so at that point, you are pretty much beholden to having Blake Griffin and Drummond on that deal. And I'm not saying Blake Griffin can't play up to his contract, but here's the thing, it's a boatload of money, okay? Andre Drummond is signed as well. So here's the thing. The only way Detroit can win this trade is if they are able to make other moves and build a championship contending team in Detroit. That is what I don't believe in. I don't believe in Stan Van Gundy and the Pistons' ability to build a championship roster around Blake Griffin, or else I would have had them winning this trade, okay? Again, Clippers won this trade just based on the premises of the actual trade itself. If you're talking about how the organization looks, the stability of it, how future players will look at the Clippers, and how their fan base is going to react, Clippers lost this trade in that sense, okay, folks? And that does mean something. But again, this means now that Lou Williams is on the block, DeAndre Jordan's on the block. Clippers aren't doing a rebuild. They're going to do a retool. They're going to trade. Watch out for this. They're going to trade for players that are relatively young, not too young, but not too old, obviously, on good contracts, kind of like what the Boston Celtics did, where Danny Ainge really never had to tank. He just kind of accumulated assets, you know, pretty much just stole from the Brooklyn Nets. But Clippers are going to try and do that. Let's see how well that works. But like I said, this is my analysis of the trade, folks. Honestly, wish it didn't happen, but you know what? It did, and we have to look forward to now Blake Griffin in a Detroit uniform. I'm looking forward to seeing that and how well him and Andre Drummond mesh. Let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below if you guys like this video. Please give it a big thumbs up. Please subscribe and share. And again, make sure to follow me on my social media. Let's talk NBA, folks. I'm here all the time. Talk NBA. Give me topics y'all want me to talk about. And make sure to turn on post notifications. I will talk to you guys soon.